All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about Microsoft because Microsoft has decided to do something that they basically promised that they would never do. Microsoft has apparently laid off 200 developers and are reportedly not just laying them off, but also apparently replacing them by the AI system that they themselves helped build. Ironically, they're replacing them with the same system that they themselves built. It is an absolute insane story, but it's a story that's going to be happening over and over and over again. This is something that's going to be happening as time goes on because, listen, AI is here. There is no doubt about it. People are trying to fight it. Obviously, you see these developers trying to fight it. You see these journalists trying to fight it. But AI is here, and people are refusing to adapt. And the ones who are not adapting are the ones that are being left behind. But I think there is a bit of irony here to be replaced by a system that you yourself built. So let's talk about it. Apparently, it's an absolute shit show. HR department looks away and just whistles at the entire nonsense that's going on. If you needed further evidence that we live in a dystopia, an editor would chuck out for being too on the nose. Try this. Per sources spoken to by mobilegamer.biz, laid off staff at social game developer King as an Activision Blizzard King are being replaced by AI, the same AI that they helped build. In fact, imagine building an AI that's so good that it's better than you at your own job and you built it. That is just an amazing thing, right? I wonder if they even told them that they were building their replacement. Probably not. Most likely Microsoft did not disclose to these people that they were going to be building an AI that was going to eventually replace them once it was complete. I'm sure they never said that. But if you cast your mind back to 2 weeks ago, Microsoft began the most recent bout of bloodletting, which eventually sacrificed 9,000 jobs at the altar of corporate agility. No. I don't agree with that. I think it's more so 9,000 jobs at the altar of corporate missteps, right? We're talking about corporations that have been blowing money, wasting money every single day, ridiculous budgets for their video games, flop after flop after flop. And sure, they had some wins, but the problem is they were so in the negative because of their losses that eventually even the wins weren't going to save them, right? Eventually, the truth was going to come out at some point, and they're going to have to let people go. With around 200 layoffs at King, which it got its hands on after spending slightly more than nominal GDP of Myanmar to acquire Activision Blizzard, and all to which it was Sue's reign. This was about 10% of King's workforce, which no doubt felt a lot better about the whole thing when Xbox boss Phil Spencer told him that we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before, and that Microsoft's platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. See, this is the problem with PR statements like this, right? Everybody with a brain knows that this is a typical PR statement that is put out by a CEO for a company, no matter whether or not they're doing good or bad. You don't really know because you don't have access to the numbers. You just have to take them at their word. And if you took every company at their word, then guess what? Every company will be doing good and no company will be doing bad because every company literally says that things are looking good, even if they're looking bad, only until the point where they have to literally close down do they admit that things were actually bad. But even when they're laying people off, they're like, well, we're actually doing amazing, but we need to lay off some people just because we need to restructure. They'll use some nice words to make it sound good, but we all know that that's bullshit. We all know that's bullshit. So in any case, let's continue. Speaking anonymously, King staff told Mobile Gamer most of the level design team has been completely wiped out, which is crazy since they've spent months building tools to craft levels quicker. Now, those same AI tools are basically replacing the entire team. The same goes for King's narrative copywriting team, which was reportedly also hard hit by the layoffs. The copywriting team is completely removing people since we now have AI tools that those individuals have been creating to do the same thing. It's crazy. The fact that AI tools are replacing people is absolutely disgusting, said the source. Is it really, though? Is it really, though? You know what I mean? Like, listen, I get it. People hate the idea. But I want you to just sit back for a second and think to yourselves, is it really, though? Right? Because if you're going to say that AI tools are absolutely disgusting for replacing people, then surely when you walk into a McDonald's and you see a kiosk instead of a cashier, surely you have the same reaction, right? You're not just walking in there, ordering your food and grabbing it when it's ready with no bad saying whatsoever, right? Right? Of course you're not. Of course you are. Like, you are going into automated businesses all the time and utilizing their machines that do jobs that humans used to do. Of course you are, right? This is something that we experience all the time. Surely you're not using self-checkouts at retail stores, right? Clearly you're going to the cashier and not skipping the lines and going to self-checkout, right? You would never use a self-checkout machine, right? Because that's disgusting. Because that's a job that a real person can do, right? Come on, bro. Stop it. Stop it. Are we really trying to say that here? So again, this is why when I look at people that say this, I understand why they're saying it. Listen, I can agree with it even slightly, right? Even slightly. I'll give you a little bit, right? Where I would rather a person over a machine most of the time. But I got to be real with you. That hasn't happened in any business. Every single business has had some form of either computer takeover, automation, or something along those lines. The only difference is that the creative arts, right? Music, video games, movies, TV, that hasn't really been taken over by some form of automation yet, right? It just wasn't. It was always a people-led thing. We are now experiencing AI being one of the first examples of potential, semi-automation, meaning like obviously you need a person to utilize the AI, but that one person with AI is doing the job of 15, 20 people. So it's like semi-automation in a way. But it's happening now in the entertainment industries. It's happening now in the arts, as you want to call it. So all these people are now trying to pretend like it's suddenly discussing that this is happening. Meanwhile, these are the same people that use self-checkouts. These are the same people that use kiosks over at fast food places. These are the same people doing all this stuff. So again, I understand the sentiment, but let's stop pretending like this is the most disgusting thing in the world when it's happening everywhere, and it's already happened for decades. Let's be a little less dramatic here. Anyway, Anonymous King staff called the move to axe developers. Oh, actually, hold on, I skipped something. But it's all about efficiency and profits, even though the company is doing great overall. A sentiment backed up by Spencer's own farewell letter. So one thing I will say is that Spencer absolutely messed up, but he also does what he's always been doing, which is PR speak. The problem with this PR speak is that you are trying to convince people that you're doing great when everything else proves that you're not doing great. You can't sit there and say that you're doing amazing, and then you have to fire over 10,000 people. That doesn't make any sense, right? The sentiment, the idea doesn't make any sense. If you're doing so amazing, if you have more players, more money, more revenue, more everything that you ever had before, why are you firing 10,000 people? After a while, people are going to question whether or not you're full of shit, right? And chances are, as a CEO putting out a PR statement, you're probably lying to some extent, for something anyway. So then Anonymous King staff called the move to axe developers crazy, adding that we need more hands and less leadership. Oh, that's always worked. That's always worked, right? We need more hands and less leadership. The source also alleged that devs hit by layoffs are often those who have expressed dissatisfaction with the company or processes. Well, I'm not surprised to hear that, to be honest with you. It sounds like staff aren't keen on bringing up these kind of issues to company HR. King HR is an absolute shit show and has been for years, said one staffer, calling it an extreme example of an HR department whose role is to protect the company, not the staff. That's every HR department, bro. That's every HR department works that way. Every single HR department is working in the favor of the company, not in the favor of the singular employee. Very few HR departments actually work to protect the staff. Otherwise, especially corporate, they're just working to protect the company. That is it. That's all they ever do. And HR has some of the worst human beings that you could possibly imagine existing working in their departments, usually. Have you guys ever met like certain HR people? Have you ever met someone in real life and you could just see, you're like, yep, you work in an HR department, don't you? You could just see what, like, in their face that they work for an HR department, that they love ruling over people's lives to some extent, some way. You can see that, right? Like, we're talking about an HR department. We're not talking about a union, right? A union is a company that usually tries to fight for the betterment of the staff. That is not an HR department. An HR department only protects the company, and that is it. But King's senior leadership team has apparently made improving company morale a top priority in the wake of an employee survey that went out before layoffs happened. Unsurprisingly, those layoffs did not help And combined with the ongoing constant but low attrition among staff, morale is reportedly now in the gutter. I mean, now they're in the gutter? I feel like it should have been in the gutter a long time ago, considering what's happening to Microsoft over the last couple of years, especially Xbox. But anyway, it's all quite grimly predictable. Of course, no one would expect sky-high morale after a big round of layoffs, but it's made all the worse by Microsoft touting the fact that it's actually doing better than ever right now. But that's what I mean, right? So these PR statements, they tend to forget that while the PR statements look good for the people outside the company, those same PR statements look really bad to the people that still work for the company that you just fired over 10,000 people from, right? Because they're looking at your PR statement and then they're looking at the layoffs and they're like, why are you lying to us? And the worst thing ever is that when you work for a company and feel like you're being lied to, because at that point now you lose all, if you had any faith in the company, you lose all faith in the company. You lose all faith in the workforce that you're part of. And your morale is so low that you don't even care to show up for work half the time. It's really demoralizing. So these statements really don't do very good for the people still working there. But unfortunately, they do it anyway because they want the public perception of the company to always be high. Because obviously they need investors, right? It's a publicly traded company. So they have to make sure that it's constantly like, hey, we're doing great. We're doing amazing. We're doing better than we ever have, right? Every single day, it's always the same story. All the way until the eventual closure. If the company ever closed down, then it's like, all right, maybe we weren't doing as good as we said we were. But they'll never admit it until that day ever comes. It says it's hard not to feel like an old, uneasy balance between corporate avarice and well-being of staff has been completely thrown out the window. It's been like that for a long time. And workers are left to cling to whatever they can while executives scarf down every drop of profit in reach with zero regard for the long-term well-being of the people they're responsible for. One thing I've noticed about these journalists is that they absolutely fucking hate executives and CEOs. That's one thing. If they hate anything more than the chuds, they hate the executives and CEOs because they're rich. That's really what it is. Every time they talk about the executives and the CEO, they constantly talk about how much money they make over the average person. They say XYZ CEO makes 350 times more than the average hourly worker. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like constantly, all the time, they always talk about it. But in any case, it's a bit of, envy. At this point, I think this is kind of a wild story. The funniest thing about this story is the fact that they were replaced by a system that they themselves built. And I would really like to know what they were told when they started building whatever system replaced them, right? Did Microsoft actually tell them what the overall purpose of this system was going to be? I highly doubt it. I'm sure they had these people paid building this shit, knowing that they were going to fire 10% minimum of the staff when it was completed or at least feasible where the rest of the people can run it. I'm sure that's what they thought, but they never told the developers. So now at this point, I think what's going to happen is if any other company wants to build their own AI or create their own AI or hire people, whatever, I think the people that get hired are always going to be very wary now because considering how many people are getting fired and replaced by AI, it's only a matter of time before you're going to have some sort of revolt at this point. I think you're going to see a lot of unions getting involved. They already have been. SAG-AFTRA has tried getting involved when it came to the unions with voice actors and protecting their rights as voice actors and not to get their voices duplicated by AI. It's only going to continue to happen from here. But you guys can let me know what you think about this story, how insane it is. Do you agree with the overall sentiment and the replacement of AI? Do you disagree with it? Are you kind of indifferent and see it as something that's inevitable? Whatever it may be, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting a like, and I'll see you guys on the next one.